right, welcome to Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Avelar from Pleasanton PD in California. She has 24 years experience in law enforcement, and I'm really excited to have her on the show to talk about all the really great things that she's doing within her organization. Thank you so much for being here, Chief Avelar.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to have this conversation. And I think we talked a little offline about this, but you are the second female that I've had on the show. And so it feels really good to have another woman on here talking with me. I don't know why. It's just like a different vibe. I talk to men all day and they're great, but it's really awesome to have, someone on the show who, can come with maybe some different perspectives. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I want to give our listeners, anyone who doesn't know you, some background. I know you've been in law enforcement for 24 years. Why law enforcement? Why did you choose this career path, and what did those 24 years look like for you?
I think initially I chose the public sector specifically and then decided police officer. I was already 33 years old. And so, well into an insurance career that was going up and down as far as layoffs on the top, layoffs on the bottom. And so I was like, well, let me just go and have a little more security through the public sector, which that was right after 9/11. And so we saw a little bit of insecurity there. We saw a little bit in 2008, and um, it's not as secure as I thought it would be, but that's okay. The the initial going into policing was amazing. I fit right away. It just was just a clicked. The uncertainty of it, the physicalness of it, the team environment. I've always been on a team. Was great, and coming in as an older person, as someone who starts, makes it a little easier. You don't have the bumps and bruises of a young cop. And I just kind of put my nose down and worked my way up and ended up getting my degree as a police officer. And then went to the Naval Postgraduate School and got my master's degree there. Um, and then didn't really want to be chief ever. I was happy doing what I was doing. I kept promoting. I was preparing for making myself the best I can be. I never prepared for a certain spot, but was always, preparing for what could come. And then found myself as a captain, and some decisions that were made organizationally that I was like, wow, I don't think I would have made that decision. Um, and I was talking to a mentor of mine, and I said, this is really, I'm struggling with this decision. And they said, well, you're not the chief.
Mm.
And I said, okay, well, then I guess I will be. And that was it. That was the decision. And so I put in for to be the chief and went through the process and was selected. And I'm so glad I did. You don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know that I wanted to do what I'm doing. And so it's been great. 5 years in Foster City, and now I got here in December in Pleasanton, and yeah, really enjoying it.
Thank you for sharing. And I love that story of one, I love what you said about just striving to be the best that you can be, because I think that so often we forget that sometimes it's not always the destination, it's the journey. And when you're in it, it's like, how can I just show up every day and be the best that I possibly can, perform the best? And I think that that's an important reminder for a lot of people. It's like, even if you don't intend to, be the chief of police, you can still show up with that attitude of like peak performance and like I'm going to be the best I can possibly be every day. And then obviously it brought you to the chief role, and I love that you learned from other people's decisions and you said, "Hey, that's not really how I would do it." And then having someone say, "Well, you're not the chief." And you're like, "Okay, well, let's go. I'm
Yeah,
going to strive to be that." I love that story. I think that that's great. And I think it's really interesting that you didn't set out to be in law enforcement earlier in your career. I think that a lot of people I talk to, they're like second gen or they're like, yes, I always knew I wanted to be here, but you found this a little bit later. And you said that you've always been a part of a team. Can you explain a little bit more about that? Is that like in your previous career or were you in sports? What do you mean by like I was always a part of a team?
So sports mostly through high school. I swam and I played softball, and then I played adult softball throughout my whole adult life. And yeah, so that's sort of the team mentality. Being part of a team just makes you better because it's not about you. It's about the whole team and being able to own your mistakes. Um, my daughter plays college softball right now for Mendocino College, and she's first base. And she just recently, this last weekend, they threw her ball. It was the second game, and she's probably tired and just not paying attention. I don't know. They threw her the ball at first base, and she got it, and it just kind of dropped out. It was really low, and so she stands up and she immediately goes, puts it on her chest like that's me, right?
Yeah.
Like letting her team know right away that's on me and owning it. And I was just like, oh, so proud. We're gonna make mistakes. Who cares? But owning those mistakes is so huge, especially as a leader, especially as a leader.
Yeah, and I was actually gonna, that was my next question. Like, what skills do you feel like that taught you? Because I view law enforcement as athletes. Like you guys are athletes in a way. You have to be physically and mentally prepared and fit, and you have to work together as a team. And I love that you kept saying team. And I was going to ask you that question of what skills do you think you learned over that period of time that is now helping you to lead? And I think you answered it, but if there's anything else that you feel like you learned, I would love to hear that because I do view you as high performing athletes.
I feel like one of the things that I say all the time is you have the authority to make a mistake. And I feel like you get that through playing on a team. Individual sports, you own it. You make a mistake, it's your mistake, right? When you play on a team, that team is relying on you to do your job,
Mhm.
whatever that job is in that moment. And if you don't do it, and it happens all the time where you don't make the play or you don't do what you're supposed to do. It happens all the time. We're human. We're not. And so being able to rally as a team, support each other when we make those mistakes. It's the same thing in an organization. Knowing that from the chief on down that I have the authority to make a mistake is so like kind of gives you a little bit of ability to breathe. Um, a mistake of the heart where you did it, you knew it was wrong and you did it anyway is not what I'm talking about because that's a
Mhm.
very different story. But having a collision, backing into a pole, forgetting to Mirandize someone on an interview. Okay, we can deal with it. Just tell us. We
Yeah.
can deal with it. We can fix it, whatever it is. And so yeah, that's the mentality is we're going to rally around you and we're going to support you um, in your mistakes because we're all going to make them.
And I think the word that kept popping up for me when you were talking is like empowering,
Mhm.
empowering people to do what they need to do and know that it's okay if they're not perfect. And you said that word of we're human. And I think that's such an important reminder because I think so many times, like when we, think of law enforcement and first responders, it's like there's this expectation of perfection and you guys are not robots. You are humans and just that message that comes from leadership of like, hey, like you can breathe. It's okay. you can make an honest mistake, and we're going to empower you, and we're going to, like you said, rally around you, and we're going to be there for you. And as long as, we can learn from those mistakes and move forward, like we're good. We got you. So I appreciate that perspective and that reminder that, we're all humans, because I think it is a lot of pressure to put on any one single person to say you have to be perfect.
It is such a ton of pressure right now to be a police officer out in the field every single day, um, to be a dispatcher that answers the phone and has to know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it. All of those, our CSOs respond to so many different calls, take a ton of reports for different things. And the public expects us to be right 100% of the time. And there is just zero chance that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know any other profession where you have to be right 100% of the time.
No, I don't either. And, I think that anyone who's listening can agree that I think this idea of perfection is not a reality. Like that is a fantasy. Like there's nothing in the world that is perfect. And especially as human beings, we are completely flawed, and there's never going to be any one singular person that's going to be perfect all the time. And I also think that, you can learn and grow from mistakes, and mistakes can make you better. They can
Mm-hmm.
make you better at what you do. They can make you a better human being. They can make it so that you show up better for people. There's so much growth and learning that happens
And
in
humbling.
100%. 100%. Yeah. And especially if you have that mentality of ownership, like you said, like that's on me, because that takes vulnerability to be able to look at your team and be like, man, like that was on me. I own that. I am going to, and I don't want to say apologize. I don't think that's the right word, but I'm gonna,
Sometimes it is.
yeah, but I'm gonna show my team that like I take ownership of that. And I think there's some vulnerability in that and some humility in that. And then you have the opportunity to correct it and to grow from it. So I love that you create that space within your organization to be able to make mistakes and not be perfect. And that's a reminder that you guys are human. Um, one of the things that we talked about offline is culture and creating a culture within your organization where people feel valued and supported. And I think we talked about that a little bit already, like how can you make them feel like it's okay to make mistakes and to, do their job and empower them? What are some other things that, you've done internally that help to create a culture of wellness?
So I think the easy part is buying the equipment, and it's buying dedicating a space for a room where it can be a quiet room, the massage chair and the Zen and all of the stuff in a wellness room. Um, Figuring out the workout on duty if you can, really emphasizing lifetime fitness, and then some sort of peer support program. And it has to be where, if it's internal only, nominated people, right? You can't just say, oh, I'll be a peer support. And people are like, not going to that person, right? So a nominated type of program where they're trusted individuals. Um, and you can do all that, and that is really happening, at least here in California, across most agencies. They're really focusing on that wellness, debriefing hard calls, um, focusing on that really traumatic, um, constant that a police officer experiences, where they're just going from a traffic stop to someone had just had a heart attack and using an AED, to someone who stole from a store and is running and then they chase them, to an overdose, to so it's just like the adrenaline goes up, down, up, down, up, down, and that's not healthy for a human being. But none of those calls necessarily are a debrief call where we're going to, huddle around and debrief. But the whole day was a loaded trauma that just piles on and piles on. And so all of those things help with that. But I say all that to get to the culture part, right? So you have all of these things, these tangible things, and we're talking about wellness and all of that. And then you have a boss who is all over you and um, someone who you're like, well, they're treating me different. Why are they treating me like that? They're inconsistent.
Mhm.
You're working really hard, and then someone else is just phoning it in. They're sitting in their car and parking somewhere, and they're not being held accountable. So that the people who are working really hard are like, why am I working so hard? This person's, so just the whole culture of an organization, making sure that again that they feel supported and valued, like their work is meaningful. Um, and letting people really shine where they're meant to shine. We have a hard time in policing not looking at the stats, right? Like your productivity is measured by the stats.
Mhm.
And um, sure, I can go sit on a stop sign and get you 10 citations. But did I impact the community the way that I really can today? Maybe not. So, um, really allowing people to shine where they shine, allowing them to follow their passions. I think if we do it right, it all comes out in the wash that everything is covered. Um, and so it's really tough to evaluate someone when it's you're evaluating them on all the things they're doing instead of just a number. Um, but I really think it's helpful to know what is this person actually doing? How are they impacting? Maybe someone goes to a park and spends a half an hour with an old lady that has been there every single day who's super lonely. And are they being productive for that half hour? Absolutely, they are,
Mhm.
right? And so walking down Main Street and getting to know the business owners and just they're putting a sense of security in those business owners, as well as showing them that police officers are human beings. And so there's so much more than statistics to policing, and just allowing that to kind of come to fruition in an agency is just. I feel like it helps the culture and people be here and want to be here and do things they like to do that make an impact to the community. Um, and just allowing them to um, know that the agency has their best interests at heart. Because
Mhm.
sometimes there's bad decisions or bad outcomes on a decision. Both of them, A and B, are both bad. Um, but providing that why and really caring about giving that why. What I do is I have conversations with um, command staff and sergeants and all of that. And I say, I'm going to mess up. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to be working on something. I'm going to give it to you. And you're going to say, what is this? And you're going to give it to your team and go, I don't know what this is. I don't know why they gave it to me because I didn't tell you. So
Mhm.
I need you to give it back to me and say, I don't know what this is for. Oh, I am so sorry. This is A, B, C, D. I forgot to, we were working on it for so long, I forgot you didn't have the why. And so I tell them I'm going to mess up. I am going to forget the why. Or we, as a command staff, are going to forget the why. Please know that we have your best interests at heart. And so assume good intent and ask, what was this for? And then we can say that that's a dumb decision. Yeah, look at the other side was even worse, right? And so, and the other thing is asking questions about what they don't understand, um, and allowing for them to bring ideas forward and not stay stuck in a certain way just because that's how we've always done it. I'm all about efficiency and making things easier, innovation and technology and all of those things. They take money. That takes money. But sometimes just being more efficient through hearing what the people that actually doing the job have to say is important. So it's about listening, empathy, understanding that someone who is not performing the way they normally do, or not performing up to the standards, or not the standards, but the level, I'll say, of other people on their team. Um, it's maybe because something else is going on at home, a sick parent or a child or whatever. And so understanding that people will go through their career and highs and lows, and not labeling them as something and putting a jacket on them, but really understanding and empathizing with, where are you in your life? I'm at a point in my life where I'm an empty nester, and I can go home and eat dinner or not, or eat popcorn or whatever I want to do. Um, but other people are going through the thick of it right now with
Mm.
three small kids and four sports teams and work and wife and a commute of 2 hours back and so understanding that piece is so critical. Um, and just being aware of all of that awareness, and aware of where we are in an organization training wise too. Like, I talk a lot about competency equals confidence, and confidence is so you don't make the mistakes that happen, and making people competent is on us.
Mm.
And so understanding and being aware of where we are in our competency, so that people can be confident. So it's just, yeah, and then committing to the growth of an organization, and commitment to community. And that commitment to community is internal, because if you don't have internal cohesion and culture and happiness and satisfaction, it is definitely not going to be external.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's all so intertwined that, and it's challenging. And again, none of us are going to be perfect, um, but just you work at it every single day.
I have so many things I want to say. I thank you so much for sharing. There's so many things I want to unpack, and I hope I can get to kind of the key points. But one of the things that you started off with was it's easy to put in place the things. It's easy to get the chair and to buy the thing and the gym equipment and to, create a quiet room. It's easy to do those things. The the part that takes more effort and arguably more important is building that culture within the organization. And a lot of the things that you said, like, don't, and we talked about this before, you said this, it's like that doesn't take money, that takes effort. And so I think a lot of times organizations get so caught up in like, well, we don't have the budget for wellness. And of course, there are some things that do cost money, building out a peer support team and going through training and all the things like those things do take some sort of finance. But what you mentioned with building that culture within the organization takes effort, not money. And
I wish I could buy it. I wish I
yeah.
could buy it.
Feel like it'd be a lot easier to just buy it. Yeah, for sure. And but I think too, like what you were saying about talking about it, having empathy for people. And I love that you said, because I think about this like, and even, and this might sound weird, but even in the context of like my relationship with my partner, we established very early on of like, hey, like, know that my intentions are really good. And that if I do make a mistake or, something happens and you take something a certain way, or maybe I say something a certain way, um, I would hope that you would know that my intentions are never ill-willed, like that I care about you. And so we can then approach it with, as a growing or a learning experience. And that's kind of what I thought of when you were saying those things about, you know, you telling your organization, I'm going to make mistakes. And if I do, please tell me. And please know that there's no ill intention behind it. It's not my intention to make these mistakes or to make you feel a certain way or to put something out that you don't understand. And so please come to me and let me know that because I care about you. Like I do have your best intentions in mind. And I love setting that tone because I do think it takes the guard down. And then you look at the people on your team with like, man, like this is weird. I'm going to go to them and ask why, because I've been given permission to do that. And I'm not going to immediately jump to this conclusion that they're just doing stuff because they don't care. So I think sometimes when you can set that tone in the beginning and communicate in the beginning, then it makes everything else, so much easier. And then they're not looking at you like, oh, well, Chief just doesn't care because Chief has established the fact that she does care, but
Well, I've said that I care, but I have to show it. So it's not words, it's consistency.
mm,
Um, and they're going to have to see it over and over and over again before they believe it.
yeah,
Or maybe not believe it, but before they really truly trust it, right? Like okay, we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. But would they put money on it right now? I don't know. You just have to be consistent and really earn that trust. And so that's the hard part. Yeah. Just it's not hard to be consistent. It's hard to be patient and wait and it's like
yeah,
let's just do it right now. Fix it right now. Like not that there's any culture to fix here. But like fix that trust. Like I want them to know that I care about them and appreciate. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty incredible organization, so it's hard not to appreciate it. But just getting there as a new person in any organization.
yeah. And thank you for for reminding of that because I think that's so true that like actions are far more powerful than words. And I think that I would imagine in leadership, people are watching your actions, and they're trying to gauge, okay, is this person practicing what they're saying? Like, are they actually following up their words with those actions? So thank you for that reminder. The other thing that you had said was why a lot, why we're doing these things as an organization, explaining internally, like, this is why we do these things. But then I also think, to your point of connecting with each individual's why and what's important to them and what they have going on in their life, and taking the time to understand that because there are intricacies within each person, and everyone's going to have different motivations and different skill sets in certain ways, like, that where you said that they thrive or they shine. And then also different home lives and experiences that they're going through. And I think that if you can, I mean, I would imagine if you can look at someone and say, hey, what do you have going on? What
Yeah.
is your why? Like, what do you have? And taking that time to make each individual feel seen, I think would be just so huge. And it sounds like that's something that you guys really try to do is try to understand each person and what they have going on. But I also love that you talked about community because I think that regardless of what everyone has going on in their varying whys, I've never met anyone in law enforcement who didn't get into this career because they wanted to help other people. I think that that's in the fabric of who you are as people and as organizations, is you're there to serve and protect, and you want to be there for your community. And so I think that if you have people who are in the community and they're doing those things that you said, like spending time at the park with the old lady and going and saying hi to people, and there are so many challenging things that you have to go through in this career and things that you have to see. But there are also so many beautiful things that you have the opportunity to be a part of and to see. And I think it's a good reminder to people when you are having a tough time, or maybe your calls have been, one after the other, and you're just like, man, I just see negative, negative, negative. How can you take that time to see the good and to get that reinforcement of your why and why you started doing this in the first place?
Right. Yeah. Um, it is important, and I don't know that a young police officers out there and they're just going and 100% all the time. They don't probably realize that they need to take that second, like go do a walkthrough at the park, right? Or do something that really brings your blood pressure or your the anxiety level that you don't even realize is up. There's so many, we have watches and rings and everything that kind of monitor our bodies, and so they have all that. But yeah, just understanding that you're not slacking off if you're walking through the park. You're not slacking off if you go into Starbucks and talk to someone for a little while, or you go, like I said, walk down Main Street. That's not slacking off. That's creating the relationships that we need to create. And that's something that, you can't buy again.
Yeah, and that's wellness. And I think it's really funny that you brought up like the younger officer because in my experience, when I work with younger officers, especially brand new, you're invincible and you want to go 110%. I'm not saying don't try to be the best that you can and go for it, but there's this idea of like invincibility. And maybe you haven't seen everything quite yet, or maybe it hasn't started to impact you quite yet. But over time, we know that that can. And so, how can you prepare yourself now and infuse little daily habits that take you out of that cycle of, the up and down and come to like a point of regulation. And that can look different for everyone. Like maybe it is going into the Zen den or the massage chair for, 5, 10 minutes. Like maybe it is going for a walk and just breathing and just, being outdoors. But I think that if you can remind yourself that that is a part of wellness, being in the community and taking those little steps, then you're going to set yourself up for a longer, more successful career, but also, hopefully you get to the other side of the career and, you feel good mentally and physically.
Right. And the other thing is, getting to the other side of the career is, how are we, I don't know how many retirements I've been to where they said, I apologize to my wife, my kids, or my husband and my kids that I wasn't there, I wasn't there, I wasn't there. And I've from the minute I became any kind of manager, a lieutenant, a captain, a chief, I made sure that if it was possible for people to be at the things they need to be at, the plays, the Halloween parade. I mean, I have 4 kids, so the Halloween parade, looking back was the Halloween parade, a bunch of kids walking around, but they are looking for you to be there,
Mhm.
to be at the sporting events and all of those things. Um, and just modeling that as the chief, leaving and going to an event for my kids. I would do that. I was a chief for 5 years in Foster City, and I was not going to miss my daughter's softball game. Um, and so I had 2 captains and 2 lieutenants. They all had, and they knew that it wasn't going to be I gotta ask the chief if I can take out, they're all putting in so many hours, well beyond their 40-hour work week. Um, and so going, on one day at 3 or 4 is not going to impact the hours that they're actually putting in, the
Yeah.
work they do at night, the work they do on the weekends, all of that. But you cannot pay back the loss of being there for your family. Um, and so, yeah, that's such a huge part of understanding the work-life balance that doesn't exist. The work-life balance is that you either are giving more to work, and here is your home life. It's down here.
Yeah.
You're giving more to your home life, then the work is down here. And what that looks like is just you're giving more here and you're giving less here. And so I always have found that it balances out. It
Mhm.
will 100% balance out. The work will get done, and you can do it all. Someone said, the other day I was listening to a panel, and someone said you can do it all, just not at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but you gotta be there when you need to be there. And of course, sometimes at work, like I worked every 4th of July my entire time in Foster City, every single 4th of July. So that's not a holiday we celebrate as a family. Um, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. But all the other things I was there for. Most of the things I was there for.
Well, and I can just see like how happy and proud you are to say that. Like I can see that you're
100%.
like, I was there. Like I was there at every softball game. And I can see the pride that you have in your face to say that. And it almost like is choking me up. I don't know why. I just felt like emotional.
My kids are
Uh,
going to go, you were there, but you weren't present.
oh man.
No,
You
but
know,
it's a give and take. Like I'm there, I'm sitting there on my phone, I'm responding, and so it is 100% a give and take. And but yeah, sorry to cut you off, but
well, I think it
it's
just goes back to the idea of like perfection. It's like you did show up. Maybe it wasn't perfect every time. Maybe like you weren't present 100% of the time, but you were still there and you still made that a priority to be there for your family. And you also set the tone as a leader to tell everyone else in their organization that that is something that you value and something that you want them to be able to do themselves. And you want them to show up for their family and to not have regrets because they felt like they couldn't be there or they were going to be judged or they were going to lose their job or whatever it was if they chose to show up for their family. And there have been times in my life where I have regrets for prioritizing my job over my family. And, one of those things was not being there when my grandma died. Like I thought that there was an event that I needed to be at that was more important. And I chose to leave her deathbed thinking, oh, she'll be okay. The doctors are saying, oh, she's okay. All the rationalizations that I had to make for myself to be like, oh, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. I got to do this. This is a priority. I got to leave. I got to do it's my job. And like, I have to be there. And she died. And I have a lot of regret about that, of like, because I look back at that event that I went to, did not matter, did not matter at all. And I think that if you can put it in that perspective, like you said, you're never going to get that time back. You can't press reverse, and be there for your kids' softball games or, be there when your grandma's dying. If you choose not to be, you can't hit rewind. So I think it's a really, really important message and reminder.
yeah, and life experience is going to be our greatest guide, right? And we'll make mistakes through it, but just like you said, we can't be perfect. We have to give ourselves some grace sometimes, which is also hard for, especially for police officers and dispatchers, where um, they want to do the best thing they can, and then to have the public question it and unfortunately go frame by frame by frame, which is
Mhm.
not how we get to um, do our job frame by frame. I mean, we would be 100% right all of the time if we could do our job frame by frame, but it's just
Right.
not possible.
Yeah. And I think too, like to remember that like we go through things and we learn so that we can teach other people. And, when you said that you went to those retirements and they're like, man, like, I'm sorry to my wife, to my kids, that I wasn't there, you learned from that, you
Mhm.
know? And so then you didn't have to be that person that said that. Like you were like, I'm going to learn from their experiences. I'm not going to say mistakes because again, it's like hindsight's 2020, but like you learned from their experiences and their words that they shared after the fact so that you could do better. And then the things that you do and you learn, the mistakes that you make, you're going to be able to share that with others so that they can learn from that and they can, you know, make other decisions. And I think that that's kind of the beauty of it. Like we always want to like, for our family, kids, like we always want to, prepare everyone else so that they have, better opportunities or different opportunities because we went through it first. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Mhm. Yeah, and the other thing is trying not to, I know you said that you regret not going, um, but trying not to ruminate, right? Having the
yeah.
regret of what you did or said or how you could have done better. Because I always am, I'm the type of person I'm like, oh, I should have done this, or I should have, I wonder if I driving home, whatever.
Mhm.
Even as a police officer or, a sergeant or whatever. It's like, oh, I wonder if I should, I'm always like, and so learning to, part of that giving yourself grace is learning to maybe regret something, but not ruminate in it and just, letting it go.
100%. And I'm a huge, I mean, I think you know this, but I'm a huge advocate for mindfulness and being present. And it's so funny because you hear these buzzwords all the time, and everyone's like mindfulness and be mindful and all these things. And then I'll go and I'll ask someone, well, what is mindfulness? Like, what does that mean to you? Like, what is that? And everyone's like, oh, I don't know, being mindful. And it's like, really it's just being present. And I think that the more we can be present, then the less rumination you have. Because if you're thinking about all those things of like, man, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have done this, like, and you're in that ruminating kind of mental space, you're not being present. You're thinking about the past, or you're worried about the future of what that decision, maybe will do to the future. So I think it's just trying to find that space of presence as much as you can. And you can do that through so many different things. You can do that through podcasts, mindfulness, breathing, going for a walk and just like noticing your surroundings and what's going on, being with your family and being present in those moments. And so I think there's a lot of ways that you can do that to, take yourself out of that headspace. And I think that that's a great reminder because you can get stuck of like, in this negative mindset of thinking of those things over and over and over again.
Right.
Well, so one, I appreciate your insights on building a culture. And I think that it's it's such a good message to say, hey, this doesn't take money, it takes effort. It takes a lot of effort. But showing up for your team, setting the example, building that trust, putting in place consistency and messaging so that people feel valued and supported as a part of the foundation of wellness. And then all the other things that you can add are extra and they're great, but they should be kind of like the ornaments on the tree
Right.
or whatever analogy you want to use. So I appreciate your insights on that. And I think that it's the effort, but I think that everyone who cares about wellness is willing to put in the effort. And so if you're not thinking about it, because California is, I know we talked about this before, but California is so ahead of the curve, and you guys do have so much stuff, and you're all kind of like on board with the same things, and you're talking about it. But there are a lot of organizations in other parts of the country that aren't there yet, and a lot of smaller organizations that maybe don't have the funding. So I think it's an excellent message to anyone else who's in the infancy stages or struggling with buy-in or budget to say, hey, like, this is what you can do to start to build that culture of wellness and to support your people. Um, I want to ask you as kind of a final question, and then if we miss anything, I'll let you take the floor. But what words of wisdom would you give to someone who's younger in their career when it comes to wellness? Maybe something that you learned along the way or something that you wish you would have known earlier in your career.
I think it 100% goes, well, the easiest is, don't get unfit so you don't have to get refit. Like, stay fit. That's it. Stay fit. Um, but 100% don't neglect your family in pursuit of your career. Yeah, I cannot, you can't get it back. You cannot, and you can do both. You can do both. And sometimes it takes asking for help from your teammates. It's hey, I can't work this day. I have because you ask for the day off, and they're like, oh, we're at minimums, you can't have it. Figuring out a way to make it work, and then if it doesn't, going up to that upper level, like just figure it out and make it happen because it's a priority that our kids and our family and our significant others and our parents even they're depending on us to be there and we can be there most of the time. Obviously we're going to miss some stuff, but it should be the exception, not the norm.
Yeah. Thank you. Those are great words of advice. I appreciate you so much. Is there anything we missed? Anything else that you want to say before we sign
No,
off?
I'll just say that things are nice, but there's a lot of organizations that have lots and lots of money and lots of things, and people are leaving. So take care of the people in the organization, and everything else will fall into place.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and hopefully we'll keep in touch. I think we ran into each other a few times kind of in passing, so I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Of course.